is in the sense because they're looking for work for you, kind of thing, they should have already vetted it before you even see the audition notice. If they haven't for some reason, fire your agent, kind of thing. The other thing too is like I said, the downside in Canadian agents right now is they're a little more film focused, so there's more push in that direction, but if you're willing to do film and voiceover, all to the better, kind of thing. Not that you have to, but just it's an option. But yeah, the other thing is always watch out for agents. You do not pay them until they get you work, kind of thing. If they ask for money in any way, shape, or form, before you've done any work, fire them, kind of thing. If you get work yourself and your agent come, without your agent, and they come and say, hey, I want a cut of your money, fire them. To be blunt.
Going back to the statistic from earlier about how many voice actors don't have an agent, what I'm hearing a lot from my friends in the industry is that agents are great for if you don't like doing your own paperwork. So if that's something that you desperately want to offload to someone and you're okay giving them a 20% cut of what you make on that job, then by all means work with an experienced agent who does the paperwork. However, if you are not scared of doing a little bit of paperwork and reading a lot of contractual terms and clauses, you're perfectly fine doing it as long as you're willing to put that effort in.
Yeah, and if you go on to like ACTRA's Alberta website, for those at least local, they do have like a list of like reputable agencies. So you can always click on them. Some of them will require you to do an audition to be part of the roster, but they're not going to ask you for money. They're not going to screw you over, kind of thing. Because the union has backed it, if for some reason they decided to go against that, you could just literally report them to the union, kind of thing, and they would lose their status, which would be enormously punishing for them.
All right, I think it's your turn to choose hands because I see so many hands and I'm getting anxious about not getting to everyone's question.
With the white horns, her hands been
So I see horns. I also see someone with a black cap over here.
Okay, so we'll do horns and then we'll do the black cap.
And then a lovely pink shirt and the hat, and then we've got 2 questions on this side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Something I've heard from some other people in the industry who've done voice acting is some of them have little tips and tricks they use to get into a certain headspace where they can do a certain kind of voice or portray a certain emotion, like looking at your nails or pretending to be distracted or even thinking about something. Do either of you have little tricks or tips that you can?
100%. I love that you called out the looking at my nails one because I do that one. Another one is if you're working on a lot of character work, I have touchstone statements for characters. So when I used to work on Cardfight Vanguard, every time we went into a new session, they would play back references of me saying very specific lines, and it would get me into that character.
Yeah, usually for myself, with some of the voices, until I've strengthened them up especially, I would have like very specific like catchphrase lines that'd be like, I'm gonna do this line, and then I can go right into the voice. And you would just do them, or even just mouth them silently sometimes before the take, if needed, kind of thing, depending upon the thing. One of the ones I used to do for an accent of mine was like, do not worry about it, which was like, do not worry about it, comrade. But that was that was a voice that I spent a year trying to get down because I was playing in a D&D game and decided that new character, new voice, and I was going to hammer that accent we played insane sessions back in university where it was like 8-hour sessions. But that was my catchphrase line that got me into the voice until I could just do it without saying it.
Just me giving away all my secrets here. I really like, for very conversational reads, to imagine that I'm talking to my best friend. So sometimes I might say, Nikki, did you? And then go into the line. And whomever that name happens to be for you, if you use like you're a bestie friend, and you're like, oh, Nikki, did you hear about? And then you go into the line. It sounds a lot more natural because you're already starting off with, I'm talking to a friend whom I know and I love and I cherish, and this is what the line is supposed to sound like anyway. It should be conversational. It should be me talking to a best friend, whomever that character is. So when you put people's names that you already know into a line, it's easy to splice out as long as you have a pause, right? So that's a really easy one for like super conversational, very free, very natural reads. Any other ones?
Not that I can think of off
No.
the top of my head.
All right, cool.
No, thank you.
Thank
No
you.
worries.
That's a great question.
So we got about 10-ish minutes.
Do we have 10 minutes? Okay, let's try and get
So
through as many people
Black
as we can.
Hat, because we did say you were next.
Yes.
For someone who like keeps hearing that they have a great voice, it's kind of nice to hear.
Yeah.
Speaking to you as professionals, like what is a good way for someone to develop their voice, or I guess learn? Like, do you think it's a good idea to go to someone who helps you train your voice, or is it better to just kind of like live stream or something?
I feel like I should turn that question around and ask where you want to go with your voice, because I think knowing where you want to develop it is going to be a good foundational piece of information. So what do you want to do? What do you want to do Ames-wise?
You know, like Wolf and Jack, but you know, radio.
This is going to sound super basic, but I really recommend recording yourself and listening back to it. Getting used to hearing your voice and getting used to how to use your own voice is a gift. It really is. It took me a while to get used to hearing my own voice recorded, and that's just something you have to do in this industry. You have to.
I know I'll never be the same. Shook my world so hard again. Wish I washed away my sin.